Snow fell quietly over the small mining colony, covering the ground in a thick white blanket. Jack walked alone along the narrow path that led from the trade outpost to his cabin. His boots crunched in the snow, and his breath came out in clouds of cold mist. Nights here were silent, almost too silent, and Jack liked it that way. He had no friends, no visitors, and no reason to talk to anyone unless it was for work. But that night the silence broke. A faint sound reached his ears, a slow, uneven scraping. It didn't sound like the wind, and it didn't sound like any animal he knew. Jack stopped walking and turned his head, trying to find where it came from. The noise came again, scrape, pause, scrape. He switched on his flashlight and pointed it towards the sound. At first, he saw nothing but snow and shadows. Then, behind a pile of scrap metal near the old repair shed, something moved. A small figure crouched low, almost hidden. Jack stepped closer, his light sweeping over the ground until it caught her. It was a girl, not human. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow under the moonlight, and her long dark hair was tangled and wet from the snow. But what caught Jack's eyes was her lower body. She had no legs. In their place were two crude metal supports, connected with worn straps. They looked heavy, cold, and painful to wear. She stared at him with wide silver eyes, her face half covered by her hair. She didn't speak. She didn't even move. Jack could see her body trembling, though he couldn't tell if it was from fear or the freezing cold. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jack said quietly, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears. He hadn't spoken to anyone all day. The girl flinched when he took a step forward. Her hands gripped the snow, as if ready to drag herself away. Jack paused. "You're freezing," he said. "You can't stay out here." She didn't answer. Her breathing was fast, almost panicked. Jack noticed she was wearing only a thin, torn shirt and no coat. The wind cut through even his thick jacket, so he could only imagine how cold she felt. For a moment, Jack thought she might run, or whatever counted as running with those metal supports. But she didn't. She just watched him, like she was waiting to see if he would hurt her. He slowly reached into his bag and pulled out a thermal blanket. He placed it on the ground between them and stepped back. The girl looked at it, then at him. Slowly, she pulled it around herself, still keeping her distance. Jack knew nothing about her, who she was, where she came from, or why she was out here in the snow. But one thing was clear. Someone had abandoned her, and if he left her here tonight, she wouldn't live to see the morning. Jack walked slowly, glancing back to make sure the girl was still following. She moved with effort, dragging the metal supports through the snow. Each step made a dull scraping sound, and every few steps she stopped to catch her breath. He didn't rush her. If she decided to turn back, she would disappear into the night, and he knew she wouldn't survive out there. His cabin was small and plain, just one room with a kitchen corner and a bed tucked against the wall. The heater hummed quietly, filling the space with a steady warmth. Jack pushed the door open and stepped aside. The girl stayed at the threshold, her eyes scanning every corner like she was looking for danger. She didn't cross the doorway until Jack moved further inside, giving her space. "Come in," he said, keeping his voice calm. "It's warm here." She stepped in slowly, the metal legs clinking softly against the wooden floor. She stayed near the door, still wrapped in the thermal blanket. Jack closed the door but left the lock unturned. Something told him she wouldn't feel safe if she thought she was trapped. He opened a cupboard and pulled out a can of soup. As the smell of warm food began to fill the air, the girl's silver eyes followed every movement he made. "You hungry?" Jack asked. She didn't answer, but when he set a bowl of steaming soup on the table and stepped back, she shuffled forward. She picked up the spoon with shaky hands and began to eat. For a while, the only sound was the quiet clink of the spoon against the bowl. Jack sat on the edge of his bed, watching without staring. She ate quickly, like someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. When she finished, she looked up at him for the first time and spoke in a soft, rough voice. "Lyra," she said. Jack blinked. "Lyra, that's your name?" She gave a small nod. "I'm Jack," he said. No other words passed between them that night. Lyra stayed wrapped in the blanket, sitting on the floor near the heater. Jack gave her a spare pillow and let her be. He noticed she kept glancing toward the door, as if she expected someone to come through it at any moment. Her metal supports caught the glow of the heater light. Jack could see the rough welds, the worn straps, the patches of rust. Whoever had built them hadn't cared about her comfort, only that she could move just enough to be useful to someone. As Jack lay in bed, staring at the low ceiling, one thought kept coming back. She wasn't just lost. She was running from something, and whatever it was, he had a feeling it might find its way here. The night was cold and still. The soft hum of the heater was the only sound inside the cabin. Jack had dozed off in his chair when a low rumble woke him. At first, he thought it was the wind, but then he heard it again, deeper, mechanical. Engines. He stood quickly and moved to the window. In the distance, faint lights moved across the snow, too steady to be natural. They were heading toward the colony, and the sound was getting louder. Behind him, Lyra stirred. She sat up, her silver eyes wide. When the sound reached her ears, her whole body went stiff. "They found me," she whispered. Jack turned to her. "Who?" She didn't answer, but her hands gripped the blanket so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Her breathing grew fast, uneven. She looked toward the door, then the small window measuring the ways out. Jack crossed the room and knelt beside her. "Lyra, listen to me. Stay calm. We can hide you." Her gaze snapped to his. "If they see you with me, they'll kill you too." The lights outside grew brighter, shadows stretching across the snow. Jack made a quick choice. He grabbed the rug in the middle of the floor and pulled it aside, revealing a narrow hatch. "Go," he said, lifting it open. "It's just the storage space. You'll be safe there." Lyra hesitated for only a second before dragging herself toward the opening. The metal legs scraped against the floor, making Jack wince at the noise. He lowered her down, then shut the hatch and pulled the rug back over it just as heavy boots crunched outside. 3 sharp knocks rattled the door. Jack opened it a crack. 2 figures stood there, tall and dressed in dark armor, their faces hidden by black helmets. The one in front spoke in a deep voice Jack didn't understand. Some alien language, sharp and quick. "I don't know what you're saying," Jack replied, his tone flat. The armored figure repeated the words, slower this time. The second one glanced past Jack, scanning the room. Jack stepped forward, blocking the view inside. "It's late. I'm tired. Leave." The first figure tilted his head slightly, then made a sound that might have been a warning or a promise. Without another word, they turned and walked back into the snow. Jack didn't relax until the engine noise faded into the distance. When he opened the hatch, Lyra climbed out slowly, her face pale. "They will come back," she said quietly. "And next time they won't knock." Jack didn't say anything. He just looked at her, knowing she was right. Morning came slowly, a pale light creeping over the snow-covered hills. Jack made coffee and warmed a small pot of soup. Lyra sat near the heater, silent as always, her silver eyes fixed on the floor. After last night, neither of them had slept much. Jack could still hear the echo of the boots outside his door. He knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. He placed a bowl of soup in front of Lyra. "Eat," he said gently. She hesitated, then took the spoon. For a few moments, there was only the sound of her eating. But then she stopped halfway through and set the spoon down. "They are soldiers," she said quietly. Jack looked up from his coffee. "Whose soldiers?" She took a slow breath, her hands curling into fists. "They belong to the Dominion, a military force. I was part of their project." Jack frowned. "Project?" Her gaze shifted to the metal supports where her legs should have been. "They wanted soldiers who never tired. Machines that could replace flesh. I was their test." Her voice trembled, but she kept talking. "The first time they cut me, I screamed until my voice broke. They didn't stop. They said pain was just weakness leaving the body." Jack's grip on his coffee mug tightened. "One day," she continued, There was an explosion in the facility. The power went out. I escaped. I didn't think I would make it far. But I kept moving. Her eyes flicked up to meet his. And now they want me back. Not because I am important to them, but because I am theirs. They don't let their property go. Jack's stomach nodded. He had seen cruelty in the colonies before, but this was different. This wasn't survival or greed. This was control, pure and simple. Why come here? He asked. I didn't choose this place, she said. I was just running. Every time I stopped, they found me. But last time I hurt one of them. Badly. Now they won't stop until they have me. She looked away, her jaw tight. You shouldn't keep me here. You have no friends. Don't lose your life too. Jack leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You think I care about that? You needed help. I gave it. That's it. Her expression shifted, confusion mixed with something softer. For a second, it looked like she wanted to say more, but she turned back to the heater instead. Jack didn't press her, but inside, his decision was already made. If the Dominion came again, they wouldn't take her. Not while he was still breathing. The days after Lyra's confession passed slowly, each one colder than the last. Jack kept the heater running day and night, burning through his fuel supply faster than he liked. Still, he didn't complain. Lyra spent most of her time near the heater, wrapped in the same thermal blanket he had given her. She spoke little, but Jack noticed the way her eyes followed him whenever he worked at the small table, repairing mining tools or cleaning old parts. One morning, he set a bundle of metal pieces and wires on the table. Lyra tilted her head. What is that? Your legs, Jack said simply. Her eyes widened. You're building me new ones? Not new, Jack admitted. Better. He held up one of the old supports she used. These are too heavy, too rough. You need something lighter. Something that fits you. She said nothing, but he saw the faintest hint of a smile tug at her lips. Over the next few days, Jack worked on the new supports. He adjusted the weight, smoothed the metal edges, and added padding where the straps would touch her skin. Lyra watched, sometimes offering small suggestions in a hesitant voice. On the fourth day, the work was ready. Try them, Jack said, kneeling beside her. She hesitated, her hands hovering over the new supports. Then she slowly attached them, her fingers trembling slightly. When she stood, she wobbled at first, but the movement was smoother, easier. They're lighter, she said softly. Good, Jack replied. Means you can move faster if you need to. She took a few careful steps, testing the balance. For the first time since he had found her, Jack heard her laugh. A short, quiet laugh, but real. That evening, they sat at the table together, sharing a simple meal. Lyra glanced at him between bites. You have no friends here, do you? Jack shook his head. No. Why? He shrugged. People in these colonies keep to themselves. Easier that way. Lyra was silent for a moment, then said, You saved me. But who saves you? Jack didn't answer. He wasn't sure he had one. The wind howled outside, rattling the thin windows. Jack poured more soup into her bowl. For the first time in years, he realized the cabin didn't feel quite so empty. But that warmth was shadowed by the same thought he had every night. The Dominion would return. And when they did, having someone to care about might become the most dangerous thing in the world. The warning came in the form of a distant hum, low and steady, carried on the icy wind. Jack was outside splitting firewood when he heard it. His axe stopped mid-swing. That wasn't the wind. That was engines. He dropped the axe and rushed inside. Lyra was already standing, her silver eyes wide, her metal legs tense. They're here, she said, her voice barely more than a breath. Jack peeked through the narrow window. Over the snowy ridge, dark shapes appeared. Not just soldiers this time, but small black drones gliding above them, scanning the ground with thin beams of blue light. The soldiers moved in formation, their boots leaving deep marks in the snow. They're searching every cabin, Jack muttered. They won't stop at searching, Lyra said. They'll take you too. Anyone who helped me. Jack grabbed his heavy coat and a small pack. We're leaving, She hesitated. Where? There's nowhere to go. Then we make somewhere, he said firmly. They slipped out the back door, moving toward the old mining tunnels. Jack had worked there years ago and knew some of the shafts were still open, though half buried by snow. Lyra's new supports let her move faster, but every step still left tracks. The hum of the drones grew louder. One passed overhead, its scanning beams slicing across the snow. Jack pulled Lyra against the wall of an old storage shed, holding her still until it passed. Her breathing was fast and uneven. They reached the mouth of the tunnel just as the first soldiers crested the hill behind them. Shouts rang out in the alien tongue. Blue light flashed over the snow, sweeping toward them. Go! Jack urged, pushing her ahead. They scrambled inside, the cold air giving way to the damp smell of rock and dust. The tunnel was dark except for the faint light from Jack's small lantern. Their footsteps echoed in the empty space. Far behind, the sound of boots followed, slow, deliberate, getting closer. They're tracking us, Lyra whispered. Then we make them lose the trail. Jack led her through a side shaft, then another, weaving a path only someone who had worked here could remember. But the noise of pursuit never faded. They reached a narrow opening that led outside again, this time to the edge of the frozen canyon. Snow whipped across the open space, and the drop below was dizzying. Jack looked back toward the tunnels. The blue glow of the drones was already spilling into the dark. We can't go back, he said. Lyra stood beside him, the wind tugging at her hair. Then we stand here. Jack met her gaze. She was right, running had only delayed this moment. Now they would face it together. The frozen canyon stretched before them, a wide white emptiness broken only by jagged cliffs and the black shadow of the drop below. The wind was sharp, carrying flakes of ice that stung their faces. Behind them, the sound of boots drew closer, steady and confident. The Dominion soldiers knew they had their prey cornered. Blue beams from the drones swept across the canyon edge, painting the snow in cold light. Jack tightened his grip on the mining tool in his hand, a heavy plasma cutter, the only weapon he had. Beside him, Lyra shifted her stance, the new supports on her legs clicking softly as they locked in place for stability. You don't have to stay, she said quietly, her eyes fixed on the advancing shadows. If you run, they'll only take me. Jack's answer was simple. Not leaving you. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, and for the first time, there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. The first soldier stepped into the open, rifle raised. Jack moved forward, placing himself between Lyra and the enemy. The soldier barked something in that same alien language, a sharp command for them to surrender. Jack's response was to power up the plasma cutter. The blade glowed bright orange, cutting through the icy air. More soldiers emerged, spreading out to flank them. The drones lowered, their blue beams narrowing into tight circles of light aimed at Jack and Lyra. Then Lyra moved. With surprising speed, she used her new supports to push herself forward, striking one of the drones with a piece of sharp scrap metal Jack had given her earlier. Sparks flew, and the machine dropped into the snow with a hiss. The soldiers shouted, weapons firing. Jack swung the plasma cutter, sending a burst of heat into the ground that melted the ice beneath two advancing troops. They slipped and fell, their armor clattering. The wind roared louder, as if the canyon itself was warning them of the drop just behind. Jack and Lyra fought side by side, moving with the strange rhythm of two people who had nothing left to lose. One soldier lunged at Lyra, but she used the reinforced joints of her supports to deliver a brutal strike to his chest, knocking him backward into the snow. Jack blocked another's blow and countered with the cutter, the bright light forcing the soldier to retreat. But more were coming. Too many. Jack glanced at the canyon edge. A dangerous plan formed in his mind. Lyra, on my mark, jump. She didn't question him. When the soldiers closed in, Jack swung the plasma cutter in a wide arc, sending a burst of molten snow into the air. In the chaos, he grabbed Lyra's hand, and together they leaped toward the narrow ledge hidden just below the canyon rim. They landed hard, hidden from view as the soldiers rushed past above. their shouts fading into the wind. Jack exhaled, his heart pounding. Lyra squeezed his hand. "We're not safe yet," she said, her voice steady. "No," Jack agreed, looking out into the dark expanse of the canyon. "But we're still together, and that's enough for now." Under the alien moonlight, human and alien vanished into the shadows, not as strangers anymore, but as the only friends each had left in the galaxy.